welcome to Life Action Roleplay with
Kai Norman
and Ryan Omega. Our dear friend Sin is working on some things. If you have been paying attention to Sin on Instagram, Twitter, or on Facebook, you can see that she's been involved with a few things, including LA by Night on Geek Ascendery and returning as a siren on Sirens of the Realms back at Maze Arcana. So she couldn't join us today. We love you, Sin. We will talk to you very soon. But also with us today is...
Hey, what's up? I'm Lor Markland. I'm a prop maker and also LARPer. Is that my intro? I do stuff. I make things and I LARP.
I've known Lauren for quite a while, but a number of us encouraged Lauren to go check out LARP. And, what was your reaction?
Well, so my friend Taylor said it was going to be life-changing, and then it was. It honestly has... cleared my skin, my crops have flourished, it's cured my depression. It hasn't cured my depression, that was a joke, but it has helped a lot.
Your crops have flourished?
My crops have flourished. It's going to be a good season.
Well then.
This is a strong harvest this year. Grass no straws here, y'all. But yeah, no, honestly, it has been such a positive experience, and... not only am I able to kind of take a break from my own life, but I've met so many wonderful new friends, and, the community, Twin Mask specifically, is so supportive, and I'm getting involved in a lot of Last Frontier stuff, too, as far as, helping them build their game and doing props for them and stuff. So it's been really, really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool to have something you're passionate about again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's that?
I'll absolutely agree with that. When I first started getting back into LARP, because when I first started LARP, I was about 15, 16, and I was doing it at a local university called the University of East Anglia in England,
so
for those
British.
Who aren't aware.
So tragically British.
And I kind of fell in with one of my friends was dating a guy that was a couple of years older than her, and he was in this game society at the place, and I kind of tagged along, made a bunch of friends, never actually enrolled in the university, nor actually, I guess, technically joined the club, but I was always hanging out and having fun, so I was basically a member, which was super fun. I got into a couple of LARPs there. Very, railroaded, we do, 12 hours, or, we start at noon, we play for, 6 hours, we break, then we potentially play for another 6 hours. It was close to, 4.5 hours, and then break 4.5 hours. And it's, the entire... one half of the people would play heroes, and then the rest would be bad guys, and we'll just do 6 or so modules, and then fight a boss, and then we would just swap around, and if you survived, yay, you leveled up, kind of thing.
Hey.
Now, LARP's a wee bit different, but I know I'm going off on a crazy tangent with this. So that's how I got into LARP, but that isn't even part of the topic. Some of you guys and girls might notice I've been gone for the last couple of podcasts, and the reason for that is I've been busy producing content for my LARP, my chapter of Dystopia Rising, which is which is a zombie survival horror game with a very strong post-apocalyptic vibe. I have found a place called Fort Ord, which is an abandoned military barracks base out in Northern California, or more closely, the Bay Area of California. And so with that rented out, my next game is going to be, or my first game, my opening game, is fast approaching. Way too fast approaching, in fact. It is the 5th today, and it is opening on the 19th. So I'm a bundle of nerves, and I've been making a ton of crazy cool props and costumes.
And for people who are not currently here, Kai is actually working on sewing a project right now while we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, I'm hand-lacing some armor onto something.
Also, it's the NorCal chapter. You didn't say that.
No, did I? No, yeah.
Nope,
So Northern California, yeah, the Northern California chapter. So if you have any curiosity in that, the website is Dystopia Rising NoCal. Why it's NoCal is unfortunately someone scalped the other website, but we're taking it in stride, and we're still doing great even if we are missing an R. Which I think is actually pretty funny. There are links on there to buy tickets and all that kind of stuff, as well as join the community, which links you to the Facebook groups and things like that, which is where the majority of traffic goes, which is quite nice. But that is what has been taking up a lion's share of my time, because I've been working pretty much dawn till dusk, for months now, producing and making monsters and working out where porta potties go and all of the wonderful, weird things that you have to do to set up a LARP.
All right. So next section would be shout-outs. Does anybody have any shout-outs for anybody that they could think of?
Oh, no. I love Twin Mask, and all of the staff does such a great job, and you guys work so hard. Thank you for being awesome. Also, Last Frontier, you guys are rad, too.
Do you remember, because I remember the old name, what's the new name of Nox and Fab's Twitch channel?
So if you enjoy Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, and you enjoy monsters and goblins and things like that, you should definitely check out Goblin Cavalcade on Twitch.
That's it.
So yeah, twitch.tv/Goblin Cavalcade. They have a really great show every Monday night called Total Party Kills, TPKZ, where it's kind of like a reverse dungeon, where they play the monsters and they have to defend their dungeon from heroes. Nox, who runs the channel, also does a lot of really awesome D&D content, miniature painting, things like that. Sometimes we'll have Twin Mask decompression streams.
Yeah, the Twin Mask decompression... words. The Twin Mask decompression... Wow. Streams.
Got it.
Look, I've been shut in a box, like a tiny workshop for months at a time, barely coming out to socialize with anyone. I don't even remember how to speak. Get off my back. But yeah, so I'm doing a shout out for Nox and Fab because they have a really cool thing going, and I really appreciate those two. They're wonderful beings.
They are very good. If we're talking about streams,
what?
Our Curse of Strahd stream just returned last night? 2 nights ago?
Returned.
Ooh,
It's risen again, huh?
Yeah, we've risen again from the grave.
I don't know, I hear it really sucks.
Listen.
Vampire puns.
Get out of here. Leave your own shop.
I wish I could.
But yeah,
womp, womp, womp.
Our next game is on Tuesday, October 23rd. It's twitch.tv/different_elves. Come check us out. I play a very serious witch hunter.
You play a witch hunter?
I do play a witch hunter. She's got a cool dog.
Give me so much crap for the witch hunter that I play.
She actually hunts witches.
Oh.
And hags. And also, she constantly tries to get Strahd to attack her, and he doesn't because he's a punk bitch. Yeah, Alquin, you heard me.
Oh, yes, that is DM'd by lovely Alquin Gersh.
Yes.
Who is not just an amazing role player, but also a fabulous storyteller. So check him out on that particular Twitch stream.
Have we not had him as a guest yet? Have we not had him as a guest yet?
No.
We should.
We know we should. There's a list of people that we eventually will want as guests.
Also, all of our content's available on VOD. So if you really like sci-fi too, Alquin's in a really incredible campaign called the Amaranth Codex. That's if you like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and anime and mechs.
Who likes anime?
D&D, it's me. I love anime. You should definitely watch it because it is very good.
It's good.
It's very good.
It's very good. Shout-outs from me. Well, shout-outs to my friends Bruce and Keely and Avril and Jess and Neil. We are starting Anesadora Season 2 on Saturday. So Bruce has developed this original world, and he's going to and he just revamped it. to the point where like some of us who are playing also have to have an education, and also we're trying to figure out where we are in this story because in the last game my character's face was shut off.
Oh.
And he declared war on a mob boss, so it's gonna be interesting now. See if he survives.
Will he save face?
Leave this place. Fly, you fool.
He wants to now. So shout out to them. Shout out to my friends at Nerdbot because I've been doing just supporting them. I've been very welcome whenever I just drop by. Sometimes they will drag me onto the set. It's like, hey, we need a host. I'm like, oh, I'm here. Okay, I will guest host, and this was fun and amazing. I don't know anything about Kamen Rider. Please educate me. And then they get to play with toys and show me how those toys are playing. And so shout out to my friends at Nerdbot, especially the people at Toyzilla. So, yeah. So now the topic for today. This is a topic that I've actually wanted to cover for a long time, and that's prop making. But we also want to discuss this in coordination with the opening of a LARP, in this case, Dystopia Rising NorCal, because of the sheer amount of props that you have been working on just for this launch in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've been doing this a little insanely. For those who aren't aware, I've got a bit of a background in special effects. I've worked on indie movies. I've worked on a lot of live-action video game trailers. I've had a lot of fun times and lucky experiences doing content for people like Freddie Wong, Corridor Digital, Mike Diva. Kind of that kind of crowd of wonderful YouTube content creators, as well as I've worked at a few special effects studios and things like that. And I've kind of developed a jack of all, master of none kind of styling that allowed me to have some really interesting experiences, but ultimately never let me settle on any one thing that I kind of developed to perfection. And at the time that was a little frustrating. Now I'm finding it to be very useful because running a LARP is a little like doing everything yourself because you're doing everything yourself. So I've had a lot of wonderful opportunity to kind of craft and make, as well as kind of do a bit of writing, a little bit of directing. I've got a lot of acting to do, obviously, because LARP is acting. But I'm very excited for the potential to kind of do all of those things and more, and make kind of wacky, crazy props and interesting toys that I can have my players play with, like creating things that look like bombs for them to try and disarm, or setting up a smoke machine and a bunch of like blackout windows and like some sirens on the flashing lights on the ceiling, and it's like, oh, you guys are in like some kind of sealed vault, and suddenly everything goes to shit and smoke starts filling the room and then everyone's panicking, and like I love the opportunity to kind of put players in those kinds of environments. It's almost like making an escape room. So I entirely forgot the direction that I was going with this, but yeah.
You covered that pretty well, actually.
So a lot of my special effects experiences allowed me to do a lot of crazy things, and I'm really excited to be bringing this to the table. I might be potentially overachieving for my first event, as I've got a lot of friends that are basically patting me on the back and like, Kai, you've done enough. Just stop.
You have done
stop.
a lot. Like, seeing it, I know that you've been working your butt off, but then coming here and seeing it. By the way, we're in his shop right now.
That's true. We're in Kai's warehouse right now.
So he can still work.
Yeah.
I literally am still working.
So yeah, it's, coming here and seeing it, it's just like, oh my god. You've done so much, and the production quality is already, really good.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yay. Yeah, so I've been building a lot of crazy stuff, and that's been pretty rad. I still want to build more, which is, probably a good thing, but also a scary thing. But yeah, I've been learning a lot about the depths that you can potentially go when it comes to kind of setting up your own LARP. Because when you have these ideas of like different monsters, you're like, okay, I'm going to build this, and I'm going to build this, and I'm going to build this, and oh, I need like belts and shirts and armor and weapons, and the list kind of goes on and on and on. Which I don't feel is a terrible thing, but it's definitely been eye-opening to if you try to create your perfect costume department for a LARP, you will potentially be biting off more than you can chew, and I see why a lot of people kind of modulate it and take it step by step. Mm-hmm. I've had the very unique possibility that I kind of, when I applied to run Dystopia Rising NorCal to the overall franchise company, I pitched it in such a way that I wanted extra time before the start of my game so I could create all of these types of things. So I'm making molds, I'm like collecting armor and repainting it and things like that. There's a lot of post-apocalyptic fun that I'm getting up to, and I'm really leaning on a lot of the tutorials that people like Mark Corduroy, Dimitri of Nuclear Snail, Larry Hastings, Evan Ohl, and a number of other really talented builders have kind of, to a degree, paved ahead of me. So I'm hoping with our conversations here, I guess we can kind of chat about some ways of producing interesting props and content for games, or even just for characters as well.
Before we get into that, like Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into prop making?
Yes. So I started cosplaying when I was like 13 or 14. And then I went to art college in Atlanta at SCAD. I mostly studied...
SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I
cool.
started... I actually started as a fashion major, and then I discovered that I really hate sewing. So I switched over to sculpture, and it's funny that you mentioned the Master of None scenario, because it's really... kind of what sculptors are. I mean, you can be a master sculptor, right? But like to get anywhere in the industry, you kind of have to do it all. You have to be a sculptor, you have to be a caster, mold maker, you have to do foam fabrication, you have to do all of these different things that really like fill out your skill set. And that's very similarly what I did. And then I moved out to LA and worked for a couple of shops. I've done stuff for, so many companies. Honda. I just got done working on some guns for Star Citizen. I made the flaming, raging, poisoning Sword of Doom for Travis McElroy. So many things. I currently work for Universal Studios, the theme park here in Hollywood.
Which I have to say, like I've done a season there before, and you learn an impressive amount of stuff. You really do. There.
It is a lot. It was originally I went in and I thought I was going to be doing more things that were like hard goods, and it is not that at all. So I ended up learning a lot about like special effects makeup, painting corpses and bodies, things like that, making people seem like they're dead or freshly dead, or they've been dead for weeks, or it's a mummified corpse or whatever. So, and then on top of learning a lot of weird special effects things, like making the webbing from Stranger Things, or like making posable gingerbread men out of whatever foam, and dealing with that. And part of that too has been set decorating too. Has been really cool because you're designing a whole space instead of just one specific prop, which I really enjoy that. I have an installation art background as well, so yeah, that's what I do. I've been in the props business and film production business for, I don't know, when did I move out here? 5 years ago? 4 years ago? Something like that. So
yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Is anything else cool I've done? I don't know. Like I was on that show Super Fan Builds too. Is that cool?
That is cool.
I did that show. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of forget that because this is just normal life to me. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes when people are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "So I make stuff."
Also, like, half the time you make something and then a little while later someone goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, that was for a Steve Aoki video," and you're like, "Really? Why didn't anyone tell me that?" And they're like, we just wanted you to make a thing. You made a thing. We used it in that movie or that video." And it's like, what? Okay, sure.
I am very excited and fortunate to get to work with the guys from Last Frontier here in SoCal. They're having me redo and basically figure out a polyp for them. You know what that is, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, in the game, there's these different jobs you can get, and the doctors can harvest these things called polyps. Mm-hmm. And they really want to make it to lack of better terms, disgusting object. Because you do have to literally cut it open and then harvest a object from the inside of it. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking a lot about how to make that look like an organic mass, how to make it look and feel really like this feels real. Mm-hmm. And when they cut it open, when the player cuts it open, like how much of a yuck, I call it the yuck factor. Mm-hmm. It's a very professional term. So yeah, it's just, we've been talking a lot about that, and I'm very excited because it's going to be so gross.
Now, with this kind of polyp device, I found that when I'm making props, one of the big factors for a business-wise thing is not just how cool will this be as a one-shot, but also how reusable will it be.
Oh, so that whole... They're looking at it more of from a how cheap is it to produce.
Yeah.
Because it is like a one-use thing.
Okay.
I mean, we're doing it out of latex, so it's not really like you can't reuse it because the player literally has to cut it open with a blunt object, and then harvest the thing inside. So
it's kind of like cutting a balloon.
Yeah, it's literally going to be cutting a sack full of goo open.
Great.
It's going to be so gross, y'all. I'm so excited.
I am so glad I am not a doctor.
Well, Brian was like, "Oh, what if we put oatmeal inside of it?" And I was like, okay, my goal is to definitely get someone to, like, gag, but I don't know if I want them to full-on vomit. So...
Great.
I mean, I work with gross stuff all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Like Horror Nights has literally gotten me so desensitized to gore and disgusting things that I'm just like, how can I make people react to this in a really, like... awful but memorable way. Mm-hmm. Like, that for me, is where when I make a prop or when I work on a set, that really for me is pulling from the installation art background, because I want to evoke an emotion from someone. And whether it's working on a maze or working on this one little prop, that kind of is always in the back of my mind, is how do I make this thing in a way that will not necessarily positively impact somebody, because it could be horror or it could be comedy.
It provokes
an emotion, and that's always going to be at the back of my mind when I make a thing,
I like that. And honestly, like when my team and I have been talking to writers that we've been using for our LARP, it's been a lot more emphasis on that kind of aspect of, like, we want to provoke an emotion, we want to push a narrative story, less of the, it would be really cool if we did this one thing, and much more pushing towards, well, how are we expressing ourselves through this? How are we expressing, like the oppressive nature of this group? Or, how utterly horrible this scene is, kind of thing. How do we make that happen?
You're providing an experience, essentially.
Yeah. We've been even looking into ways of creating, I believe it's referred to as a white noise generator.
Oh my god.
And they just naturally make you feel uneasy. And so we've been looking into ways of creating things like that to actually transmit in certain, if we create like a dungeon mod and people are kind of like crawling around or walking around this dungeon that we've created out of a building, like that's going to be really interesting and really fun.
I just keep thinking when I wrote my thesis for UC Berkeley about like horror video games. The one video game I could not complete was Silent Hill, and it was because of the white noise. Just could not do it.
Those games are so good.
So good. But talk about an experience just from...
yeah,
just from one thing.
Well, that was one of my favorite... Like, I love that series, and, like, years ago, I did, like, a gender bend Pyramid Head when I still lived in Atlanta. And people... There's something to be said about wearing a costume where your face is fully obscured by a mask or a helmet or whatever. But getting the reaction of people being uneasy and then looking at you and being like, you look disgusting, is so satisfying, and like just creeping people out in that way. And again, that's all like, I mean, you could say that it's sewing, right, or costume work, but really the whole dress was made out of latex and it's all gore. Like, I literally made little meat hooks that held the back of the dress together and held my garters on and everything, and it looked like ripped off flesh and muscle, and it was just so like, oh, it was gross. I felt, oh man. So, pro tip, baby powder your legs if you ever wear anything latex, because if you don't, you'll come out feeling like a pickle, and it is the worst. Atlanta summers, and latex is not forgiving, so...
Just stewing in it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good bit of knowledge.
Yeah, just baby powder is your friend always.
This weird little, like, latex gore bowl polyp thing that you're thinking of making.
That we are making.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so you're planning on making. You're planning out. What is your loose ideas for this, then?
So that mostly comes from staff, right?
Sure.
They just come to me and I show them some designs.
Of course.
And they say, we like this, this, and this. And I say, okay. And I whip up something and I send them a picture. And then they say, cool, what if it was a little bit more like this? And so I do that, and we just figure out a design that way.
Since we're talking about props, are you planning, so for this thing that you're making, are you doing a mold for it?
Yeah, basically I would do a sculpt and then mold that.
Yep.
And then we would slush cast latex on the inside. It would actually be a stone mold.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because the moisture's going to get wicked away, right, out of the latex.
So what is a stone mold?
So we're not going to use plaster because it's very brittle. But basically we're going to make a hydrocal. It's basically like plaster, where it's like a powdered...
Very fine-grained concrete.
Yes, yeah. So once it fully dries out, it'll suck the moisture out of the latex. So it's literally like I don't want to say a rock, but it is literally like a concrete mold.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, and then you just slush latex on the inside of it and wait a couple hours. And
now, how do you seal that up?
So basically, the way that this thing is designed,
before you put your oatmeal, after you put your oatmeal,
we're not using oatmeal.
No,
that oatmeal was a suggestion. I tell them no oatmeal. It attracts ants. No ants. This is how we get ants. We're not doing it.
That's the problem with fake blood as well. It's often like syrup based.
Yeah, no. I found some theatrical goo at the warehouse, which is a very fun term. But I don't know what it is, but I need to find out because it is real gross.
It's probably Methicil.
I don't know what it is. I haven't looked at the label because it's kind of worn off. Okay. But it just looks so nasty.
I'm willing to bet it's Methicil.
But I really would love
fantastic fun. It's like super... All of the drooling, like super gooey stuff that comes from monster mouths in movies, like especially if you think back to like Alien, the first one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The teeth exposed and then it's just dripping from its jaws. That's Methicil.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're basically... it's going to have like a tail on it. Because the idea is with these polyps is that the doctors find them in corpses, and so they pull them out. Well, you're going to have some viscera that comes with that, so that's how we're going to hide where we fill it with the goo, and then where we put the actual physical polyp inside the sack.
Wow, sounds like an elaborate setup.
It's a thing. It's going to be real cool, though. I'm very, very excited. I'm excited to get the first one done so we can do like a tester. Of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're planning on having some kind of like basically like a pump base that it wraps around?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
It's basically like once you pull the latex out, it's hollow, right?
Yes.
So then we would just put
the goo inside.
We would pre-make them, right? So
Yeah.
you would pre-make the sack.
That makes sense.
And
yeah.
then you would basically fill it with the goo
Mm-hmm.
and then put the actual physical polyp inside.
Sure.
And then you just tie it off.
Oh, okay. You tie it like
a water balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah, like water balloon.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
I did not realize you were tying it up. So
Yeah, but the
that's
end
awesome.
is just nernies, so it's just like grossness
Yep.
that just gets tied up. And
Could
then,
you explain nernies?
Oh, 'cause this is
I know
this is
nernies.
a California thing.
Yeah.
So there are two terms in prop making that have a lot of controversy surrounding them because there is some geographical differences.
Nernies and greebles, right?
Nernies and greebles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, supposedly they're the same thing. They're not the same thing.
No.
Greebles are basically like kit bashed little bits that you find from models or machine parts or whatever you can get, and you just glue them on your miniatures or armor or prop or whatever to make it look more sci-fi techy, or I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be
Yeah.
that genre. It just makes it just gives it detail.
A really good example of that to the viewers, watch the original Star Wars trilogy,
Yes.
and all of the ships there are like the Death Star and every ship in that series. All of the Star Destroyers and things, they were just covered with little bits and bobs of, like, you know, pieces of aircrafts, like aircraft kits, and like race cars with their wheels taken off, and a whole bunch of other things that were just basically glued to wooden boards,
Yep.
spray painted, and then, you know, with some creative lighting and some panning cameras along it, it looks like a starship.
Yep. There's also, if you want detail shots of something like that, or just want to see some really beautiful production photos, there's a book called Sculpting a Galaxy that is literally, it spans all the Star Wars movies, aside from the most two recent ones, and it has beautiful photos and stories and like documentation about how they made a bunch of those models and the miniatures for the movies, and I love that book so much. It's so beautiful.
So that was Greebles.
So that's Greebles. Nernies supposedly
My favorite.
are the same thing, but that's what Northern California people call them. But nernies are not that to me. Nernies to me are like gore bits. Mm-hmm. So like at Universal, we make a bunch of nernies for various eaten off, shredded viscera. So basically, we just take a sheet. This year we did a whole table because we needed that many nernies. So we covered a whole table in plastic and then just painted sheets of latex for days. And then you just tear them up, powder them, and you have nernies, which are gross little. It just looks like ripped up flesh.
So,
Or gore or whatever. Yeah.
if I ever need to make like a fleshy kind of like mass, like a fake organ or like entrails, what I do is I do the same thing for a nernie table. I paint off the latex, and then once I've done a couple of coats of it drying, I peel up one end, and then I take whatever I'm carving, maybe it's like, you know, a rough kind of kidney shape of foam, and I start peeling up the latex and wrapping it around this object. And as I wrap it around, I'll start to overlap it in places. And the reason why that's important is latex is really good at sticking to
itself.
latex.
Yep.
And so while it's dry, under tension, it will stick and adhere to other pieces of latex. And so you can just kind of like stretch it and warp it and pull it in one direction or the other to create like wrinkles and weird vein shapes. And then after you've wrapped it a few times, you can take like a cheese grater or a wire brush or a horse cleaning tack or whatever kind of device that you decide to use to just scratch up the surface of this sheet of latex that is stuck to the table, and then you rub at it, and these little holes will become like more like pock marks, almost like pustules that have burst on the skin.
This turned into a very gross and spooky episode.
Yep.
Hey, Halloween, what's up?
Yeah,
Halloween and also zombie survival horror.
That's true.
I've been making tons of these
Yep.
things.
You showed them to me earlier.
yeah.
They were very gross.
So you wind it up along with that new layer of gross, kind of like very textured latex. And then after that, you can just shred some more of it, and it'll end in like these long strips, and you just kind of roll the strips together, and it'll create these little weird, nasty, gross little noodles, and then those get wound around on things, and you end up with like some weird kind of mass, and it ends with like one or two tails that are sticking out from either end, and the ends have like all these weird curled little gross things, and you like wobble it, and it just looks unsettling, and it's vaguely flesh colored. And all you need to do is just give it a wash of paint or use some fake blood or faked colored something else, and it takes on a really unsettling tone as all of the darker liquids pool into all of the crevasses of it. And so it has like a kind of vaguely flesh color with this other tone in the deepest areas, and it just looks gross.
It's very yucky.
And those types of things, when it looks kind of jiggly and like squeezy and like drippy, and you hand it to someone and they're just like, "Ugh, I don't wanna."
So my favorite trick to yuck people's yums is to put blood on something, and then just a little bit of hair. Just a little bit of hair.
Yeah, tiny little bit, right?
Yeah. Oh my god. So this year for Halloween Horror Nights on our Terror Tram, we have Killbillies. Hollywood Harry's Nightmares is the first section you go through on the tram. Is this basically like hillbillies murdering people, making them into pigs and stuff.
Literally murder hobos.
Literally murder hobos, murder hillbillies. So we had to make barrels of skin. Which you could do if you just get, like, the way that we did it, we just got a sheet and then covered it in Eurocoat on both sides. Did one side with perma blood, and then the other side with just a flesh tone Eurocoat.
Sure.
Well, my coworker decided, oh, you know what this needs? Body hair. And there are so many that just look like a gross hairy back. Not the hairy back, so if that's your thing, cool. But, like, seeing it in a barrel, like if someone's ripped off hairy back, it's just
it's just floating in something?
It's just piles of skin, like overflowing in these barrels. It is. It looks, because of the way that he applied the hair, because it's directional, it looks real, and it's so nasty. It's just like, oh my god. Anytime there's body hair, fingernails are another thing, teeth, anytime there's those things just laying around, oh man. It sure makes people really grossed out.
Perfect.
So,
Kai, out of curiosity, of all the stuff that you have made for DR NorCal, what props or costumes are you most excited to show people?
So I've been working on a few monsters, like a few undead things, and I'm really excited to see what people's reaction when they see a zombie with like actual entrails hanging out of their body. Or like a really realistic paint job on their face, like alcohol makeups and things like that we've airbrushed on, rather than someone painting like just white makeup and going for a little darker kind of recesses around the eyes. I'm really excited to see the wow factor of people kind of like experiencing these creatures. Just kind of all of the things that I've been building, I'm looking forward to seeing players' reactions of them being around. And it's going to be really difficult because I know my first game, I'm going to be too busy hanging out behind the scenes to actually see anything go out and anyone react to these things going out. And that makes me a little sad, but I'm just going to have to live vicariously through my players and just hear all of the stories of how good they enjoy things, hopefully. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun making gross little things. I've gotten a lot of stuff from old TV shows. One thing that really creeps people out is I got a couple of these silicone feet with like nylons cast into them.
wow,
And,
really?
Yeah, and so the idea is the nylons roll up your leg and it helps blend the skin tone. And they were very similar to what were built for the Hobbit movies, or the Hobbit movies, where in those movies, they're often running around barefoot. They're not running around barefoot. No. They're running around with silicone boots that look like feet on their feet, so they're not actually going to break their feet up in a real forest. And so I've gotten a few of these, and boy, oh boy, do they look super unsettling when they're just on your arm. Because one of the types of people in Dystopia Rising are called remnants, and they're kind of like mutants. And they're supposed to have weird mutations. And I can't wait to walk into game as a remnant that has 4 feet. And no hands.
Oh.
And I'm just going to be walking around with these feet for hands, and they look so believable that they're just unsettling. And it triggers such a weird effect in the people that I've tested them out on, and they're just like, no.
Are those here right now?
Yes, they are.
Oh, I'm going to need you to put those on later.
Yes, I will.
Great. I need to see
in fact, we will take a photo, because we usually take a photo of our group for the episode, and we will take a photo of maybe both of us, Lauren and I, having feet, and then putting them over the shoulder of Ryan.
I would love that.
Ryan, do you like feet?
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, you probably won't like them after this.
I like having them. How about that? I like having them.
Sure.
But it reminds me of that Saturday Night Live skit where like the one, like I guess like there was a woman with her 4 daughters, and one of them has like the deformed hands.
Oh yes.
Like, and that
has really small hands, right?
The super small hands. Yes. It's kind of creepy.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's good.
But here with feet.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm really enjoying is I've been taking a lot of because it's post-apocalyptic and it's kind of Mad Maxy. I've been getting a whole bunch of sports pads, and with those kind of American football pads, I've been kind of painting them brown and then painting silver over the top of them, and then I go hog wild with a whole bunch of cinnamon as I hit it with a layer of clear spray paint, and then I sprinkle cinnamon on it. And by sprinkle, I mean
he throws it. I watched
assault.
It happen.
He does, yes. Yeah. I am actually covered in little pieces of cinnamon all over myself. I'm really looking forward to it. It smells really good, though. I smell delicious.
You do smell delicious.
So, I just kind of bomb it with cinnamon, and then I hit it with another layer, and then I hit it again, and, it's cinnamon, spray paint, cinnamon, and I just keep doing that as layers until it just looks horrendously rusted out and wonderful. And it's such a satisfying experience to do, and it looks so good. And one of the things that I like most about doing like kind of blood spatters and rust effects and all those kinds of like interesting weather effects is you never really know how they're going to turn out. Because it's so based on just like paint flying off the brush and hitting things in random spatters, and it's kind of cathartic, and it's also really exciting when you see things that look so realistic, and it's just because you got the spatter just right on that like one little blood spray or something like that, and I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patina, when I used to do a lot of bronze work, doing like actual patinas on things is so satisfying.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kai's motioning to me to move closer to the thing.
The thing, yes.
To the
microphone.
We're doing it. Look.
What advice would you give to people who are looking to start making their own props? I would say specifically for a LARP.
Okay, so practice. Watch tutorials. Don't be afraid to ask people's advice.
But at the same time, don't ever be afraid to experiment, because there are so many people that take tutorials so literally.
Yeah.
So I went to Wasteland Weekend. I got to meet Nuclear Snail. Dimitri is a wonderful person, and I know not only just through his videos, but through him personally, the level of frustration that he has when he tries to arm people with knowledge and information, and he wants people to take that information and utilize it in their own ways, and instead people take him literally. So they watch his tutorial on how to distress a leather jacket, and then they say, okay, could you make a tutorial on how to distress leather pants? And he sits there and just is like, you didn't really understand the whole reason for this tutorial. It wasn't to teach you how to distress a leather jacket, it's how to distress your clothing.
Yes.
I just happened to use a leather jacket. And so always be willing to experiment and try things out. Don't be afraid to like put pigment, mix it up with some water and acrylic and things, squirt it on a costume, and then squirt some water on it to diffuse it a little bit, and like let it dry and see how that looks with the weird like stains kind of taking in. If you want to make something look gross, like do that a few times and see how it goes. Like, there's nothing wrong with experimenting, because that's how people worked it out in the process. And the thing that I love most about talking shop with people is I have met just as many novices just deciding to throw caution to the wind and trying out something new, having something new as a technique to share with me, than masters who have their own secret techniques.
I like to think of it as methods as a deck of cards. It's something that you can shuffle through and pull from. You have a card for everything, in a way. And sometimes you have multiple cards for multiple things. It's not necessarily a Bible. You know, you don't want to follow unless it's like a chemical that requires a very specific ratio, or like a material that requires a certain set of instructions to actually function properly.
There's a difference between safety.
Yes. And having things catalyzed properly. But when it comes to like aging, painting, sculpting, like, I mean, there's like a ton of different ways to make a mold, and it just depends on the way the sculpt, right? Like,
I've heard of tricks where you can mix Windex with certain types of acrylics paints before you start painting with them, and it'll turn it into crackle paint.
What?
Like, yeah, there are so many of these weird little experiments of like, how did you work that out? That's amazing. Like, don't be afraid to experiment a little and try things out, because it just works out pretty well. And if it didn't work out well, if you try making something and you go, that sucked, don't just say that sucked and throw it in the trash. Try to analyze, why do you not like it? Okay, why doesn't it look good? It doesn't look right. All right, why doesn't it look right? Well, I look at this real thing, and it's got all of these darker areas, but I look at this thing that I painted silver with silver spray paint, and it looks flat because everything is the same color silver. Well, my friend, you need to learn about washes or dry brushing or ways of antiquing your props. Because if you're able to get paint, black or dark paints into those darker nooks and crannies, it really helps the highlights of your prop really pop.
Also just don't be afraid to take shortcuts as far as certain things go. Kai's cinnamon armor looks absolutely gorgeous. It is stunning, and it smells great. I don't have the...
It's true.
It's really going to help with LARPing. I don't have the patience for that. And so all of my rust, all of my patinas, I use Modern Masters. Because I just don't... I don't feel like sitting outside and aging things with cinnamon. Like, I just want it to rust and be done with it. And so that's what I do.
For those unaware, that is a type of iron filing paint. It's a
there's multiple kinds, but they have a lot of different metals. They have iron, bronze, copper, gold, brass, all those things.
So it's powdered metal in an acrylic medium. You paint it on whatever you want, and then you squirt it with a certain type of activator or acid. And it will, over time, dry and then create these really beautiful, very accurate-looking oxidizations or rustings or so forth.
Yeah, well, it is rust in patina because it's metal. So for me, it's just like I have very little patience and time most of the time when I'm doing things because I'm a procrastinator. Don't procrastinate. That's my other piece of advice. Don't procrastinate. Don't be me. And, just... You know, like I just use that because I think it's the real thing, and it's it's great for me because I'm not handling it, I'm not putting it on my body.
Yeah,
for LARP it might not be the best because it's actual metal, but for
and
me
it's actual rust which you don't necessarily want to breathe in.
No.
And I love how there's a lot of different paths to reach the same objective.
Yep.
That's kind of the important thing. Specifically when you're making something for LARP, I think you should really consider what you're making it out of. Because if you make it out of metal and it's sharp and spiky, you might kill yourself with it. Or someone else. So consider making something out of foam or plastic. If it's going to have sharp edges, then definitely work out a way so it, not going to hurt someone. Likewise, if it's really delicate, you're probably going to get it broken.
Yes.
One of the greatest rules of LARP is if you really love it, don't take it to LARP because you'll probably get it ruined because when you're fighting or role-playing or things like that, you're going to drop it or someone's going to murder you and you're going to fall over on it or things like that. So that doesn't mean don't put effort into your things, but be aware that they are probably going to be limited in their life.
Yes.
They will wear out and they will break down. And then next time you build it, you can make it better. But, make it lightweight, because if you make something super heavy, you're not going to want to take it around at a LARP. So weight, materials, those sort of things. Just be very aware of how you're creating your objects.
Also, in that same vein, I'm a person that I like to have stuff on me. I like props. I like belts. Can you tell that I like anime and video games? Because that's basically what my character looks like, is an anime Final Fantasy character.
Both of your characters look that way.
Both of my characters look that way. It is a
blessing and a curse.
It's a blessing and a curse. But I have learned very quickly that all of my props need somewhere to live on my body. And if they don't have somewhere to live, then I probably don't need them on me. Or I need to make a thing for them to live in. So my scrolls all live in a scroll case. But it still drives me crazy because my scroll case just sits in a bag on my back. And I don't like that. If I need to read them, I'm doing a leatherworking thing now. So I'm gonna make a whole new harness. I'm gonna have a new piece of gear for next Twin Mass game. So have a place for your props to live on your body. Have it. I promise you it will make you so much happier and efficient, and you'll be able to whip things out if you need them to, and it just
looks cooler too.
It looks great. Yeah. Your things if you work hard on a thing, you want to show that thing off, and you also want it to be secure on your character. In both a literal sense of not getting it stolen, but also it not falling off when you're running around in the dark. Having things be intentional, and not only the way that you make them, how they look for your character, as far as maybe this is an important heirloom of your family or whatever that object is. Having a place for it to live and be displayed on your character is also, I would say, equally as important.
So have a story for each prop.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, almost. Sometimes it can just be a thing. Maybe your character's just a klepto, and you just want to steal things, and maybe that thing isn't important. It's the rush that you got out of getting it. But
I love accessories with my costumes, and I feel that accessories, and especially utility.
Yes.
Which was what you were talking about. Yeah. Good utility in your costumes. Make costumes with pockets. If you can't make costumes with pockets, get belts and make pouches for your belts so you have pockets on your belts.
Make sure the pouches close very well.
Yeah, because otherwise they're going to fall open and you're going to lose all your stuff and someone else is going to keep it.
Especially if it's money or gems.
Yes, put your money inside of a pouch and then put that pouch inside of another pouch.
I cannot tell you how many times I have found in-game money just walking around the places that I LARP while in-game. I'm just walking down the street and I find gold coins just on the floor because someone wasn't paying attention and dropped it, and that's what they did.
It's not great.
No, it isn't great.
Wouldn't suggest it.
No. Would not recommend.
Any last advice before we sign off here for this podcast episode?
Ryan, I want to ask you, what is your favorite prop from your favorite LARP character?
Whoa. That's a good question.
Oddly enough, it's actually my very thick glasses from Inesadar, which is not technically a LARP.
Sure, if you're role playing on Twitch, you're kind of in costume if you choose to be. If you're in costume and you're playing a role play game, you're kind of LARPing.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah,
so your thick glasses?
It's my thick glasses because for whatever reason, once I put on those thick glasses, I immediately drop into character because they're a very defining part of Delexo because he is socially awkward. And for whatever, but it's weird. He's socially awkward, except that he can talk to anybody because he doesn't have a fear because he doesn't understand that he's socially awkward. they're just like my favorite thing because they're also so big and so on my face that there's no mistaking him for anybody else.
Oh, really? Your character wears large glasses. Tell me about it.
Yes.
What's
yes,
that
Vin.
like?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, very similar to Vin's character. She also has very large glasses, but they're distinctive and they're just cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Yeah,
Glad.
what about
Yeah,
you? I want to know what your favorite prop is, Mr. Propmaker.
My favorite prop?
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of costume pieces I'm very proud of. Like my Diesel Jock, I'm very, very happy with my leather jacket that I made him because it's covered in armor. It's got a lot of really cool details. It's actually the vest that I brought to the very first interview that I took part in for this podcast, and I talked a lot about how to make good armor with it.
Right, and then we drafted him immediately afterwards.
And then you guys decided you wanted me.
He's mine now.
Yes.
He's mine. We've got him.
And that was well over a year ago.
Yeah.
So there's that. I play a duelist in Twin Mask, and I wear a large leather hat that's very similar to a Puritan hat. The reason I picked it is because it looks very, very similar to the Witch Hunter hats in Warhammer, and I really love that kind of aesthetic of like such a badass kind of like silhouette. And for some people, it really does invoke that kind of like badass, mysterious kind of like character kind of vibe. For other people, they think it looks kind of goofy.
It's also a target.
It is a huge target. Oh my god, is it a huge target? But yeah, so I really enjoy that. I'm thinking of modifying it a little bit, changing it up a little bit. I'm actually thinking of trying to take the buckle off and replacing it with something. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with those points. It's hard to decide. Like, I don't know if a hat is... I feel like a hat is more of an accessory and less of a prop. But anything that helps kind of define your character or create extra points of play style to your character or involves other people can be a prop. So I'm not really sure where the line is drawn on that.
I just realized as you were talking, because Deluxo is the pair of glasses, but I forgot the most iconic prop I've ever had was the Viscount's fan. In Labyrinth. It's the...
Elephants?
Yeah.
They're so much fun.
Yeah, and it's the one item that made him very much stick out as a character at the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball. And even, like, when Sasha directed me, she said, like, the way you use that prop is often, like, how it signifies a lot of how he thinks about power and how he positions himself and how he communicates. And it's become an iconic thing that to the point where he had a fan pin. And it was just his icon. And it became the seal for that position.
Yeah.
Lauren.
Oh, God.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. With Sapidus, who is my Last Frontier character, she is a crab.
Crabby McCrabberson?
She's a crab girl. Yeah, she's a Piscean, a Tide Hunter Piscean. She's literally Mr. Krabs. No, she's not. She's like Russian Mr. Krabs. No, I have this really beautiful mask sculpted by Miss Monster.
That's Melita Curfey, isn't it?
Yeah, Melita Curfey, who is an incredible artist. You should support her always. She is like art senpai to me. I love her so much. And her work is absolutely stunning. But I have this demandable mask that I wear with that character that I painted to look like blue and gold and like shitness, and it's just... It's...
Shitness?
No, you know, the chitin, the chitin, whatever.
Chitin.
That's...
Oh, that's what... Oh, sorry. My
Yeah, just talk about straight shit. No, I'm talking about crab armor. No, it's fine. So I have that mask, and it is absolutely stunning, and I really, really like how it looks, especially from a distance. It's very striking.
Yeah,
It's got some great jawline to it.
Yeah. With Vin, is my twin mask character, I actually made a Tonto that you guys never saw originally, because when I was trying to cast it, it was rainy and the phone was not having it, but I might revisit that. But I made this really awesome Tonto, but I think for her, it's more of an accessory. I sculpted these pendants for myself and two of my friends.
Oh, the brooches, yeah?
The brooches that are...
I thought you were going to say those.
Yeah, they're very apparent when you look at each character that has them. Basically, I sculpted a setting, and then we put these giant gemstones in them.
Is that what you did on Goblin Cavalcade when they did the Twin Masks?
Yep.
Yeah, crafting day.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Thank you. But it's very... In a lot of ways, it's... You know, it was a fun little project that I enjoyed doing, but also the meaning behind those pieces, not only in, like, a meta sense of, like, these are my two best friends and we're embarking on this thing together and we're always gonna kind of be true to each other, but that's also what it symbolizes in the game for our characters. And it also has mechanical benefits. Hey! Pure of heart. Hey! I think it's that. It also just sits... It's such a defining piece when you look at my character. Like, because of where it sits right below my clavicle, and it just is a big, big old rock. This is a big old crystal. It's very sparkly. Sometimes when I'm in the light,
It's your magical
catches.
girl transformation
Is
thing.
literally my magical girl transformation brooch. Also, a thing that I didn't make that is becoming one of my favorite props is my cheese plates that I carry around.
Yeah.
That's also
There's some
very good.
amazing photos of that.
It's just that one where I look like a housewife from like a late 80s magazine cover is like, it's very good. So, but yeah, I think the brooch is probably my favorite thing.
Perfect.
Nice. So, time that we wrap up. Before I forget, I wanted to thank everybody who's been listening, but especially our Patreon supporters,
Whoop, whoop.
our friends over at Twin Mask, who their last game was their biggest game ever.
Yep. They hit like 180.
180.
And I could be wrong on this, but the last numbers that I heard were 60 new players that pre-regged, but then we had like another 15 or so walk on the site.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. We also want to thank Lost Colonies, who's out in Virginia. I know that Joe Hines, who runs that game, just got interviewed on a podcast called Old Man Skinny Guy, I believe is the name of that podcast. So
awesome.
Congratulations on that. And to our friends at Geeky Teas, who just opened their new place and got to visit that and
I'm sad I missed that.
covered that on Facebook Live. There's going to be opportunities.
Oh, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Well, I think this weekend, aren't they doing I thought they were doing a come in costume tabletop thing. Is that this weekend? Or is
Yeah,
that...
I've heard
think
about that.
so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're
I think
playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Like you show up with a third level character in costume, and you get to play.
Yep.
Nice. So,
Alquin is, I think, DMing one of those
He is.
tables. So,
oh,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
So, where can we find you, Lauren, on social
Oh,
medias?
God. I'm at Saltiest Time on everything. On Twitter and Instagram and...
Saltiest Hime?
Yeah, Saltiest Time. I'm the Salt Princess. You can also find me on the 23rd of October on twitch.tv/different elves playing our Curse of Strahd campaign. And I'm also generally just on that channel a lot.
Yep.
Doing D&D stuff.
Yep.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
You can find me pulling my hair out and crying in a corner at Dystopia Rising NorCal from the 19th to the 21st of October. Otherwise, you can find me online at Yokai Props, both the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitters and the tweets and all of the bird things.
Those good tweets.
Them wholehearty tweets.
Those
yes.
dank tweets.
Those dank.
Hearty dank tweets.
And you could find me, Ryan, on Facebook under Ryan Omega, Instagram also under Ryan Omega, and on Twitter under Ryan OMGA. You can also find me on an Isadora starting Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Maze Arcana, and starting on Mondays by oddly popular demand, I begin my tarot reading
Yay!
on Facebook,
That's
which
great.
is tentatively called the Weekly Forecast,
Hey!
since people seem to like that, and that's going to be Mondays at 8 p.m. and it's going to be a Facebook Live. So when that's going to happen, I'll make a post saying, ask me questions, and I will answer your questions life using tarot readings or talk about other metaphysical things. All right. Thank you for joining us. Anything else that we want to say? I know, we're like, I realize it's been a long day.
Big butts save lives.
No, don't be rude. Thick thighs save lives also.
Okay,
Just don't. What? Where did this come from?
I don't
Why
know.
are you like this?
I don't remember.
Hey, shout out to all my boys in the Dank Arts Guild and Twin Mask. We're gonna all wear Vin's pants next game. It's gonna be great.
Are we?
I don't know, are you?